Toronto, job done. It wasn't always pretty, but in a rare opportunity to play a significant game in front of a home crowd, the men's national basketball team delivered a 97-61 win over the Dominican Republic as part of the qualifying process for the 2019 FIBA World Cup in China. The margin mattered as much as the win itself. FIBA's new qualifying format features home-and-home matches, and it was a very different Canadian roster that lost by 12 to the Dominicans on their home floor in November. Canada needed to win by 13 to jump to first place in its group. In that context, the winning basket came on a triple by Phil Scrubb with a minute gone in the fourth quarter that put Canada up by 14 points. A three-point play by Dwight Powell followed along with a triple by Melvin Agim, all part of an 11-0 run that gave the home side some much-needed breathing room down the stretch as the Dominican had cut Canada's lead to 8 late in the third quarter. In the end, the 36-point victory combined with a win on Monday in Ottawa against U.S. Virgin Islands will assure Canada first seed in Group D, with the results carrying over into the second round, which opens play in September. You could nitpick and say Canada should have won by more and looked better doing it, but given some of the heartbreak Canadian basketball fans have suffered through, that Canada got through the game with the desired result, no one getting hurt in the building, not losing power should be considered an important triumph. It looked dicey for a moment. Canada was shooting just over 40% from the floor through the first 30 minutes of the game and only 5 of 20 from 3, and perhaps most concerning, had surrendered 14 offensive rebounds to the much smaller Dominicans. Canada only had 7 for itself. The Canadians dominated the fourth, 26-3, as head coach Jay Triano went to his veterans to solve a pesky Dominican team. "You saw it. The came in and just took care of business," said teenage phenom RJ Barrett. "As young guys watching that, you just get to pick up those things, and I'm glad to be a part of it." Canada had 4 players, Agim, Dylan Brooks and high school teammates Barrett and Andrew Nubbard tie for the scoring lead with 14 points each, while Dwight Powell chipped in 11 as Canada shot 50% from the field and made 10 of 27 threes, including 5 of 7 in the fourth. Canada was clearly the favorite, even if it took it a while to act the part. It is a role it better get used to. In selecting his 12-man roster for the game, Triano had the luxury of sitting out 2 big men with NBA experience in Andrew Nicholson and Chris Boucher. Canada's most experienced NBA player, Tristan Thompson, was seated courtside, and yet the Canadians were still able to roll out 4 bigs, Kelly Olynyk, Khem Birch, Powell and Anthony Bennett, with NBA pedigree. There aren't many countries in the world that can have 4 former NBA first-round picks, Jamal Murray, Andrew Wiggins, Trey Lyles and Thompson, not play and still have a roster deep on NBA-caliber talent. And not many that can feature 2 18-year-olds, Barrett and Nubbard, so prominently in such an important game. Overall, Canada enjoyed a significant size advantage at almost every position among their respective starting lineups. The Dominicans did start 6'11" Eloy Antonio Camacho Vargas, but their next tallest starter was listed at 6'4". Canada had 2 near 7-footers in Powell and Olynyk, along with Birch off the bench. The only Canadian starter smaller than that was point guard Corey Joseph at 6'2", and it goes without saying Canada was giving up nothing in terms of quickness or athleticism. But Canada's size helped during a ragged start as it dominated defensively and finished possession off with rebounds that it sprinted without into transition. Joseph knocked down a pair of jumpers on the run-off Dominican misses, and Canada was able to jump out to a quick 16-10 lead. But it was as Canada's starters began filtering to the bench that its true advantage was made clear. As NBA players left the floor, the likes of Birch, the talented big man from Montreal who was with the Orlando Magic last season, came off the bench to replace them, along with seasoned European pros Agim and Scrubb. As one teenage NBA prospect, Barrett, took a rest, he was replaced by another, Nubbard, the Florida-bound point guard who has lifted his 2019 draft stock with his play this summer, first with Canada's U18 team and now with the senior squad. Neverd's quick burst, a smart lob to Birch, a pull-up jumper and a tough runner helped Canada to a 25-21 lead that would have been greater if Canada had shot better than 2 of 9 from 3 in the first 10 minutes. "They were two of our better players," said Triano of Barrett and Neverd through Canada's first 2 exhibition games, and in training camp. "I have nothing else to judge other than what they've done with us so far, and it's been real positive. They bring a lot of energy. Andrew is very savvy with the basketball, made very few mistakes, made shots when he had to. RJ's been spectacular, good in the open court, able to get in the lane, draw fouls at a high rate, and those are things we're looking for. But what could have, perhaps should have, been an easy game against an unheralded opponent was a dogfight." The Dominicans won the third period 19-10, meaning Canada's chances to win its group was hanging in the balance heading to the fourth. Fortunately, the Canadians remembered who the better team was and showed it. "This felt good, especially coming in front of my family and friends," said Barrett. "A crazy environment, I loved being a part of it." In September, the second round of qualification will split the top 3 teams from each of the 4 first-round groups into 2 new groups of 6 teams. For those 2 groups, the top 3 in each automatically earn a spot into the FIBA World Cup, and the best 4th-place team between the 2 groups grabs the last America's spot. To the World Cup matters not only because it will be Canada's first chance to prove the country's growth on the world stage, but because the top 7 teams at the World Cup get a spot in the 2020 Olympics, an event Canada hasn't participated in since 2000 in Sydney. It got a little closer in Toronto on Friday night.